Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be building this cool looking application. We're going to be utilizing a search API to get this data, where you can see that the first article, the title for the first article is going to appear as our H1 on top, where you can read the full story, and then it shows you the category that you're currently viewing. So if I search for something like science here, you can see that the category changes, and then the title also changes, and then the articles also change. So the API that we're going to be using is called Hacker News, and it's built on top of Algolia's search API. And if you have never heard of Algolia, it's a search API for growing startups. And a good example for this is actually the Tailwind CSS website, where their search, let me call it the search algorithm uses the Algolia search, as you can see right here. It is quite fast. So for example, I can search for something like padding, and you can see it is quite fast, right? And for this project, we're going to be utilizing the date and FNS, which is a package on NPM for formatting dates. So we're going to be formatting these dates here so that we can display them here. And then we're going to be getting the title, the author of the article, and then we're just going to click to add a read more button, which is going to take us into the actual website where you can read for yourself. Okay. Now I should mention that you can use this repository, but please do note that this repository is 8 months old, okay? Which means if you check in the package.json, then it's going to be using React version 17 and React DOM version 17, and then it's going to be using React scripts version 4. Now these have all been updated into version 18, 18, and version 5 for React scripts. So this repository actually is still working. It's still workable if you want to use it. I just thought that is something important to mention, and this is actually what I'm using to showcase this application. So we're also going to be building this search bar on top, where you can search for whatever you want. You can even search for sports, and it's going to show you articles related to sports, as you can see. So I'm going to close all of these up. So I'm going to close this and this and this and this, as well as this. And then let's take a look. We're going to be using this API right here. So we're going to be using this, okay, where we're going to be passing in our queries, and then we can fetch data or fetch the articles related to that query. So if I open this up on a new tab, then you're going to see that we're going to get a request that is similar to this. So we get a JSON object, we get the hits right here, which is an array of objects. Created at is the date that we're going to be displaying on the bottom of the article, and then this is the URL that goes to the actual website, and then this is the title for the article, and then this is the author. So pretty much that's all we're going to be doing, or really rather that's going to be the information that we need from this API. Okay, and I should mention that I already have my server running on localhost 3000, but most likely you don't have one up and running yet. So what I recommend is you can open up your terminal and you can navigate into a folder of your choosing. You can create a new folder, and then what you do is you can just say npx create react app, and then give it a name that you would want. If I can just spell this right, you can just give it a name that you would want, okay? And then this is going to canvas a new React application for you. But please do not, once again, if you do this method, if you use this method, then you're going to be using React version 18.1 and 18.1 here, depending on when you're seeing this video actually. And then you're going to be using React scripts version 5.0.1. okay, remember this is different in the repository, but if you're using the repository, it doesn't really break anything. So even if you're using the repository, then this is going to work. The application is going to work as you would expect, because the functionality is going to remain the same. Okay, so once your application has finished canvassing, then you can run npm start, which is going to start your development server on localhost 3000, and this is what I have here as my default React application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this to the right, and then I'm going to place Visual Studio Code to the left, like so, and then I'm going to shut this down. And then what I'm going to do is I want to do a bit of cleanup. So I want to delete a few files inside here which you don't need. So these 5 files, I'm just going to delete them. And then in the index.js, of course, now this is going to break. So in the index.js, I'm going to remove this because we no longer have it, and then remove this as well, and then save this. And then in the index.css, I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to import a font here. Maybe I don't really need to import a font, so we can work with this. And then in the app.js, we're just going to remove this on the top, and then we're going to remove all of this, and we're just going to return an h1 that says hello world. And something that I've just remembered is I built the previous application using Tailwind CSS, but for this one I'm going to use vanilla CSS just to style it out. Okay, so we have an error here that says plugin React was conflicted, So in order to fix this, what you have to do is just go into your package.json and save it, and then that is going to get rid of the error. I don't know why that happens really, and it usually happens from time to time, and it probably might happen a couple more times during this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my package.json open here, and I'm going to be saving it periodically so that this can actually show up if this is going to show up. I don't see this on the screen. Okay, there we go. So see that? So we have hello world. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to add my global styles. So I'm going to target my asterisk, and I'm going to say set the margin to 0, reset the padding to 0, and set the box sizing to border box. Okay, where we don't have images in this project, we don't have ULs, so we don't need to add them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the input, okay, and for the input I'm going to give a background color of transparent, and then I'm going to give a padding of, let's say, 1.25 rem on the top and bottom and 1 rem on the left and right. And then on the body I'm going to specify a font size of 16 pixels so that the rem can actually use 16 pixels here. And then I'm going to give a text color of, so I'm looking for a color called slate blue. Let me see how this looks. Oh, actually I can't really see it on the screen. What am I doing? Until I actually have the input. So we're going to be seeing this in a few moments. And then I'm going to have a button here, which is going to be our submit button for the form. And this is going to have a background color of white with padding of similar to the input, so 1.25 rem and 1 rem. And then this is going to have a border of 2 pixels, or let me say 0.1 rem, solid and white. And the input as well is going to have a border of 0.1 rem, solid, and it's going to have the same color as this. Okay, and we're going to change the color for the button here on hover. So I'm going to say that for the button, when you hover over the button, then I want the border to be, let me say border color is going to be something here, which I'm going to check the color in a moment. And then for the body, I want this body to have a background color of hashtag 111827, which is Tailwind dark gray. Okay, so let me save this and let's see what I have. If this is going to reload. Okay, so there we go. So we have this right there. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's get some data which we're going to display right here. And actually we can just begin by structuring everything out. So what I want to do is I want to set up my return. Okay, and in my return I'm going to returning a section here, and this section is going to have a class name of, let me just call it section like so. Okay, and then inside here we're going to have an article which has an h1, and this h1 is going to say a title here. No, let me say very big title here, and then below this we're going to have an anchor tag that goes somewhere. So this is going to be read full article like so, and then below this we're going to have another article. Okay, and then this article is going to be our card. So for now let me just display the first card. So what we want to happen here is we're going to have a div, and then inside this div we're going to have an h2 that says heading 2 for now, really, that says heading 2. And then inside here we're going to have, let me call it a ul, and I was wrong, we do have ul, so ul times 2, and then this first one is going to say by an author here, so let me just place my name for now. And then this second one is going to be an anchor tag that goes to a link that we're going to get from the API, and this is going to say read more. Okay, we can see read full article here as well so that it matches with this. And actually no, let's do that. So let's say read full article, and then below this we're going to have a paragraph that says the date. So this is going to be the date, right? So okay, so this is how the cards are going to look, and I just want to style them out so that when we fetch our data we're just going to be populating the web page. And I am missing our form, so let me add the form on top. So we're going to have a form here with no action. Okay, this is going to have an input with a type of text, with a name of search, with an ID of search, with a placeholder here that says search for something. Okay, I'm not going to set it to required, so below this we're going to have a button that says search, like so. Okay, so let's save this and let's see what we have. Okay, and remember, when you see this error, just go into your package.json and just save it, and then the error disappears. I don't know why that happens, but it works. Okay, so let's add a bit more styles. So for the ULs, we want the list style type to be none, and then for the anchor tags, we want the text decoration to be none, so it removes the underline. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's style our section. So for the dot section, what I want to do is I want to have a padding all round of padding all round of 1.25 rem, and then we need to style this input so that it actually takes the font family of the body. Okay, so right here, as well as the button, by the way, so right here and right here, we're going to say font family and set this to inherit. So it's going to inherit the font family of the body, and then push this upwards right around there, push this on top. Okay, there we go, looking nice. And then let's go ahead and style these two right here. Okay, I want to place the font size to be about 2 rem. Let's see that. That's too big for mobile screen, so let me say 1.5 rem font size. Okay, let's move the outline. I don't want the outline, so outline none. Okay, outline none, and then we can say border none as well. Sorry, what am I doing? The border is going to be on the body, and the border also, I also require the border on the input. This is rem. Okay, that's why it wasn't applying. Okay, let's see. Okay, there we go. You can see that the styling is a bit different from the preview that I showed, but that's okay. We are really here for the functionality. You can style it differently if you want. So what I want to do is I want to go inside the input and I want to increase the margin on the right. So I'm going to say margin right of, let's say, 1 rem, pushed away from the button like so. And then we can add a border radius here of 0.625 rem, which is 10 pixels. Okay, and then do the same on the body. So just copy this line, place it here on the button, sorry, not on the body, on the button, 0.65 rem. And yeah, that's almost looking nice. It's almost looking nice. Let me see how it looks on bigger screens. So on bigger screens, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside the input. Actually not, I'm going to add a media query. What am I doing? So I'm going to say add media for a min width of, let's say, 1024 pixels. So that's about large screens. I want to target the input, and I want this width to be 100%, which is going to place it to the end. I'm going to take it to the end like so. And then what I want to do is I want to go inside this section. So I want to access the section here for the dot section, and I'm going to say I want this to have a max width of 992 pixels. I'm going to limit it like that, and then I'm going to set the margin to auto, which is going to center it. There we go. Okay, so that's looking nice, or rather that's looking almost nice. So what I want to do here is I want to target the form. If I can just type, okay, really, so I target the form, and I just want to say display this as a flex, so display flex, so that happens, and you can see it's already pretty nice. And I can say align item center, and then yeah, pretty much that's it. That's pretty much it. And then actually, you know what I want to do is on small screens, yeah, on small screens this looks nice, this looks nice as well. Now let me just handle the hover state for the button. So when we hover over this, I want the background to be transparent, so background color, set this to transparent. Let me see this, there we go. And then I want the cursor to be pointer, cursor pointer, and then I want the text color to be white, or rather not white, I can just say slate blue. Slate blue, okay, so right around there. And then we can add a transition here, so let me say transition all the properties by 0.15 seconds, 15 seconds, and then just say ease in out. Okay, look at that, looking nice. Now you know what, just to be uniform, let me change this border into slate blue. And now instead of using slate blue, I want to use slate gray. So let me just select all of this and then change this to slate gray. Yeah, let's use slate gray. There we go. And then let's change the border color. And by the way, I've selected all this text by just saying Control D. so it selects all the other text that is similar to this. Okay, so let me get the, where is it, the border for the button, this one right here. Change this to slate gray. Okay, that's looking pretty nice, shaping out pretty nicely. Now let's change the placeholder color for this. Let's change the placeholder color for the input, and what I'm going to do is target the input and say 2 full columns and say placeholder, and then change this color to slate gray, like so. Okay, you can see it changes, and then change this color to slate gray as well. Oh, it's already done actually. And then now what I want to do is I want to go into the form and set the autocomplete to off. There we go. Okay, you can see now we don't have the drop down list that we had before. Okay, so let's go ahead and now let's style these articles. So we have styled the form. Now we want to style these articles. So the first article, and let me give this article a class name of title, like so, and then give the second article a class name of cards, like so. Okay, save this. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside the form. First of all, let me just target the form right around on top of this. Let me target the form and let me add a margin on the bottom of 2 rem, push it downwards from this and everything. And then let's go right inside here. Let me target this section. I want to target the article that has a class of title, and then I want to access the h1, and here I'm going to say font weight, set this to bold, font size, set this to 2 rem. How does this look? 2 rem is a bit too small for me, so let's say 3 rem. Then change the color to white. Let's say text align center. Let's say margin bottom 1 rem. Okay, let me see how this looks. Okay, fantastic. And then let's go inside the article. So inside the section, the article that has a class of title, let's access the anchor tag. So this one right here, where we're going to say margin bottom, set this to 2 rem. Look at that, and nothing happens because I want this to be a block element, so display block. Okay, and then I can say text align center. So let me place it right here, text align center. Okay, fantastic. I want this to have a border bottom of 0.1 rem, 0.1 rem, solid, and let's say slate gray. Okay, there we go. Okay, and of course this doesn't go to the center because it's displayed block here, so let me say display flex. I hope this works. And then let's say align item center, and justify contact the center. The border button doesn't seem to work here. Let me see, how did I structure this? So it's the article and then the A. I really thought this would work. Let me change the color for this. So let me go right around here. Let's change the color to slate gray. Okay, there we go. And then what I'm going to do is I want to access the hover state for this. So copy this and just say that when we hover over it, I want the color to change to white. So let's see, there we go. Look at that. And then we can change the border bottom. And you know what, instead of doing this, you know what, we can remove all this and we can just say text decoration, set this to underline. And would you look at that? Okay, it's not as I wanted it to be, but it works. Okay, so now let's style these cards. So let's go into this section, the article that has a class of cards. Let's access the div. Let's give this div a background color of slate gray, like so. That's too light. Let's make it darker. We're just bringing this down right around here. Change this to hex value. No. Let's use, what color should we use? Let me use the body color 111827, and then just lighten this a bit. Let me just let me just reduce the opacity. Of course that doesn't work. What am I doing? My brain just lagged for a moment. So yeah, let's work with this color. So this is the hex value 161F34. And then let's add a padding here of 1 rem. Let's add a border radius of 0.625 rem. And then let's access the h2. So the section, the cards, the div, the h2. Change this color to white, like so. And then let's have a margin bottom of 1 rem. And then let's access the UL. So this section, the cards, the div, the UL, let's say display flex, align item center, and justify content to space between, which is going to take this to the end, like so. And then let's access the first LI. So let me say that for the LI, that is the first child, like so. I want this color to be slate gray. Fantastic. And then let's access the LI. The LI here, and then let's access the anchor tag, which is this second list item. And then we can change this color into slate gray as well. Wait, why did I even style this too differently? Come on. Why did I style them differently? So you know what, let me remove this from here. Okay, and then now instead of styling this here and repeating myself, let me just say text decoration here, set this to underline, like so. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, fantastic. It doesn't work. So perhaps it does. So let's set the color here into slate gray. Okay, and then let's target the hover state for this. And then we're going to say that when we hover over this, then I want to change the color to white. Like so. Fantastic, fantastic. And then let's go inside this div, which starts right here. And then let's say margin bottom of 2 rem to push it away from the date. Oops, did I do that wrong? I did that wrong. This should not be here, it should be on the UL. So remove this from here, take it to the UL right here. Push it away from this date inside here. Okay, fantastic. Now for the date, let me see, we're going to access the dot section, the cards, the div, and then the paragraph. Then this color into slate gray. And there we go. Okay, so this is going to be our card. And now what I want to do is I just want to multiply this. So I just want to grab this and paste it downwards one more time because I want to see how it's going to look. So save the package JSON right inside here. And then now what I want to do is I want to go inside this cards class, the cards class. So this one right here. So what I'm going to do is for the dot section, for the dot cards, I want this to display as a grid. Okay, with grid template columns, the first one is going to be 1 fractional column, so we don't need much, but we're going to add a grid gap of 1 rem to push it away from this article, as you can see right here. Okay, and then now what I want to do is just copy this downwards and add a media query here right above this, and I'm going to say at media for a min width of 768 pixels, which are tablets. Then I want the grid template columns to be 2. So grid template columns repeat 2 and 1 fractional column each. And then now when we increase this past 768 pixels, then this happens. Look at that. So just making it responsive. As you remember, we made it responsive by adding a max width here. Remember, if you can just find it right here. And yeah, so now that we have this populated, or rather styled, then we can begin to check how we're going to make it populated. So let's go ahead, and then now we can remove this. Okay, and then now what we need to do is we need to start fetching our data. So on top, I'm going to import use state and use effect from React. And then we need to install a package called datefns. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to add my terminal here. Okay, and then I'm going to say npm install date-fns, like so. And then as that installs, the package that we're going to use from or rather the method that we're going to use is called format. So import format from date-fns. If you don't want to do it like this, what you can do is you can say import format from date-fns/format. Okay, so this one works and this one works as well. It's pretty much your preference, whichever you want to do. I prefer to do it like this because I like named imports. Okay, so let us install for a moment, and then now what we're going to do is set up our state values. So for our state values, we're going to have a few of them. I think 5 of them. So let's go ahead. So the first one is going to be items. So const items and set items. Set items. This is going to be equal to use state, and by default it's going to be an empty array because this is the state value that is going to hold our data once we fetch it from the API. And then the second one is const query and set query. Query. This is going to be equal to use state. By default, I want to search for programming. Okay, and I'm going to show you. So this query is the query string that we're going to be appending at the end of the API so that we can search for like the data that we want, right? So the query string is what we're going to be appending to the end of the API, and we're going to be telling the API to fetch that kind of data, whatever we have in the string. So that's why by default I want it to search for programming articles. And I don't know why it's giving me this error. Query declared. I don't know why this is giving this error, but we're going to find out in a moment. And then the third one is going to be const text and set text. This is going to be equal to use state. By default is going to be an empty string, and this is what we're going to be checking for in our form. And then we're going to have const large title and set large title, which is our obviously large title. This is going to be equal to use state. By default is going to be an empty array once again. And then I've just remembered I did not scale this up, so we're going to do that. Okay. And then finally the last one we're going to have is the loading animation. So is loading. So const is loading and set is loading. And this is going to be a boolean, so we're going to equal to use state, and by default it's going to be true because the loading state is always going to be showing if we don't have our data. Okay, so once we have that, then let me just remember to scale up this huge h1. So this is where I scale it, right? So what I'm going to do is right around here, I'm going to say that for the title h1, I want the font size to be 4rem. Let's see this. Doesn't reload. Is this 4rem? I can't even tell. Oh wait, it was already 4rem, so I should make it 6rem. Okay, there we go. A bigger title. Okay, so let's go back into our app.js and then let's grab our API, which is this link right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my use effect hook. So I'm going to say use effect. Okay, and then place in my callback function like so. And then we're going to have a dependency array here, but I'm not going to add it just yet. So I'm going to say const fetch articles equals to an asynchronous function like so. And then I'm going to say const res equals to await fetch, and then we're going to be fetching this URL. And then at the end of this, remember I said we're going to be appending this. So at the end of this, I want to place my $sign and my curly brackets, and then I want to append the query that we have, and the query by default is programming. Okay, so this by default is always going to be showing programming articles. And then we're going to say const data equals to await res.json like so. And then you can console log the data if you want, but I'm not going to console log it because I already have it here, so I can just look at it from here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say set items into data.hits, and I'm saying .hits because right here the hits array is the one that we want to get the data from. Okay, now once we have this, then I also want to say set large title into, let me show you. I'm going to say set large title into data.hits, and then place my brackets here and say 0. And what this means is it's going to get the first article, only the first article. This is going to get everything, all the 17 articles that we have inside here, but this one is only going to get the first article, so that when we access it, we're only going to be accessing the first article, and then we can use it to display it on the top right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and then let's call our function, so fetch articles like so. Okay, so nothing happens obviously because I need to save this. Nothing happens because now we need to we just need to check whether this is working correctly. So what I'm going to do is right here where it says very big title, right, I'm going to place my curly brackets, and I'm going to say large title dot title. So let's save this. Obviously it breaks, so let's save our package.json, and we see, look at that, what is your favorite programming language? Okay, now just to show you that our query is working, if I change this query into science, right, and then save this and then save this, then this should reload and it says teach yourself computer science. So that means that our query string is working when we append it to the end. So let me change this back into programming. And then now what I want to do is I want to have my loading state. Okay, so for my loading state, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab everything that is inside here. Okay, so I'm going to grab from this article and this second article, and I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to place my curly brackets once again, and I'm going to say when is loading is true, then I want to have a div here with the class name of spinner, which we're going to create. Okay, only just a single div like that. And then when it is false, I'm going to place my full colon, and then I'm going to paste this back in. And obviously it gives me an error because you can only return one item, so I'm going to return a fragment like so, and then place it like so. Okay, and you can see now that is loading is true by default. Okay, because we have not set is loading to false anywhere, then we see nothing on the screen. Okay, but if I change this to false and then save this once again, then you can see that we are going to have our data. Okay, so now I want this to go back to true because I want to style our loading spinner, right? So let's go inside here, and then let's just go on top of everything right above here, and I'm going to say dot spinner like so, and I'm going to give this a width of 2 rem and a height of 2 rem, and then let's give it a border of 2 pixels, or roughly 0.1 rem, solid and slate gray. Am I going to see that? Let me see. So this is it right here. So instead of 2 rem, let's say 4 rem, make it bigger, or even 5 rem, that's fine. Make it bigger, right? Okay, and then I want the border on top, so border top to be let me see, what was the border top color? Yeah, border top color. I want this to be red, so that we're going to have this, and then we're going to add the border radius, make this 50% so that it's rounded like so, and then we're going to have an animation here, and this animation is going to be called spin, and I want it to spin for 0.3 seconds, and I'm going to say I want it to spin forever, so infinite, and in a linear fashion like so. And then let's go ahead and create this animation. So I'm going to say at keyframes spin, which is the name of the animation that we've given on top. Then I want us to spin from transform and rotate 0 degrees like so, and I want it to go to transform rotate 360 degrees. Let me save this and look what happens. So we have our spin animation. This is a bit fast, so let me change this to 1 second. Look at that. So now we have our spinning animation, so our loading animation technically. Okay, let me change this color from red to something like slightly soft red. Let me change this border to, let me make this border thicker so that you can actually see the red, right? So right around there, and just make it a bit thicker, or make this lighter. Make it lighter or less opaque. Less opaque. Yeah, that works fine really. So that is our spinning animation, and I want it to go to the center. So what I'm going to do is, let me see if I can say wait a minute, will display flex even not display flex? Align the percentage just so I contact the center. No, it doesn't work. So let's use positioning. So let me say position this as absolute from the top by 50% and from the left by 50%, and then let's say transform and rotate. Transform. So transform, translate on the x-axis by minus 50% and by minus 50% on the y-axis. There we go. So this happens. Now the reason why it's a bit to the right, I think, is because of this. Okay, so let me just try and disable this for a moment. Let me see. Yeah, so it's because of the keyframes, that's why it's a bit to the right, otherwise it's going to be absolutely centered. So we're going to have to do a bit of trial and error where we want it to position a bit less to the left, right? So right here and right here, this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. So right here and right here, I want to change this to about, let's say 48%. Let's say 40%. Let's say 42. Right around there should be fine. On a bigger screen, it's right there. I don't really want to do this for every frame really. So let me just place it as 44%. Yeah, and we can just delete that. So there we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we need to disable this loading spinner once we fetch our data. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to go on top of this and I want to set isLoading to true once again. Okay, so it's already set to true by default, right? But before we fetch our data, I want to set it to true just to make sure that it is set to true, you know. And then once we fetch our data, so once we call this function, then we're going to say set isLoading to false. Okay, and then we need to save this, and it loads for a moment and then disappears. I don't know whether you can see it. Loads for a moment and then disappears once we get our data. Okay, and then now let's go ahead and populate our cards. So for our cards, what I'm going to do is I just want to disable this first of all. Okay, not disable really, but comment it out, and then I want to map over our data, right? So I'm going to say items.map, and I want to get back a few items which I'm going to destructure immediately. So I want to get back the author, and this is all coming from the API, by the way. You can check all this data in the API. So what I want to do is I want to get the author, the URL, the title, the created at, and I want to get the object ID. Where is it? The object ID right here, which is going to be our unique key. Okay, so I want to get the author, the created at. I want to get the title, the URL, and the object ID. And then I want to place my return here, and then in my return I'm going to be returning a div with the key of object ID, like so. And then now we're just going to be structuring this like it is here. So we're going to have an h2. This h2 is going to be saved to say the title, and then below this h2 we're going to have a ul. The first li is going to say by, come on, by, and then come on, and then the author. And then the second list item is going to have an anchor tag that goes to the href of the URL. And then this is going to say read full article, like so. And I want this to open on a new page, so I'm going to set the target equals to _blank. And then I'm going to set the rel to no referrer, rel equals no referrer. And then I want to do this on this anchor tag on top as well, right? Where is it? Here. I want to do the same here. Okay, and the href for this, by the way, I forgot to add it, but the href for this is going to say large title dot URL. Okay, and then once we have this, then below the ul, right? So below the ul, we're going to have a paragraph that says the date. So we can just have created at here, created _at. Okay, and obviously this date is not going to show. I mean, it is, but it's not going to be readable. Okay, so there we go. Look at that. So we have our title, we have our author, we have the read full article. And by the way, not all these articles work, I think, because they were taken down or something. That's why you see that you can't click on some of them, and then on others you can just click on them and they do work. Okay, so let's format our data. And I've just noticed that I did not add our category here. So before I forget, let me add the category right around here. Let me add a paragraph here that says category. And the category is going to be the query that you search for. So query. That's so. So the first one is going to show is going to show programming, like so. And then now we just need to style this out. So let me give this a class name of category, like so. And then let's style it out. Okay, so right around on top of this, I want to access the category, and what I want to do is I want this to have a color of slate gray, and then I want to add a span inside the category. So the category span is going to have a color of, let's call this let me just call it slate gray, but I want to make it lighter. So that is just a tiny bit distinguishable. And then I want to make it bold, so font weight bold. Okay, and then let's go back inside here, and then let's grab this query and place it inside a span, like so. So we're going to have this, look at that, looking fantastic. And then I want the text to be capitalized. So text transform and just say capitalize. So we're going to have that, and then let's have a margin bottom of 1 rem, pushed away from this. Oops, that's on the wrong one. I want it on the paragraph. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. Look at that, looking fantastic. Now what we need to do is we want this is quite a large title. Was it 6 rem? Let me change it to 5 rem. That's really big, too big. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to format our date, and then we need to deal with our input, our form. So let's go ahead and deal with our date. So remember at the top we imported format from date and FNS, right? Now we are going to do, what we're going to do is right inside here we're going to say format like so, and then we're going to add our curly brackets and say format new date like so, and then pass in created underscore art, and then we want it to format in the form of days first, then month, so 1 or not 1 but mm, so 4 of them, and then the year, so y. So format in the form of date, month, year, and I do know that that is not the standard everywhere. Most people use month, day, and year, but I use day, month, and year. So you know, if you want to play around with that, you can change it. It's not really that big of a deal. And if that is going to save and it doesn't work, why don't you work? What is the error? It says, oh, this should not be capital, this should be small. So 1 2 3 4 should be small. Sorry about that. And then save your package.json, and there we go. So you can see now it formats date, so 23 March 2012, and so on and so forth. They're a bit dated articles, but you know, they do the job. Now let's work on our input. Okay, and the first thing that I want to do is I want to increase the size of this input on bigger screens. So let me go inside here. Let's give this a font size of, I don't know what I had on the top, so let me just say 3.5 rem. Let's see, too big. Let's say 2.5 rem. Okay, yeah, that's doable. Let's go to the button as well. The button is going to have a font size of 2.5 rem. Oops, 2.5 rem, just to make it the same size as this. Okay, so that's our button. It's a bit different from how I styled it, but you know, the bigger the better. So let's go ahead and let's deal with our form. Now for the form, what I want to do, and now I can remove this actually. So for the form, what I want to do for the form is we need to have an on submit function in the form. So for that, I'm going to go to the form and say on submit, and I'm going to create a function here called handle submit. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this function right below this, below our use effect. And below our use effect, I'm going to say const handle submit is equal to an arrow function, target the event listener of e, and then we're going to say e.prevent default, and it prevents the default behavior of the form reloading the web page when you submit it. And then what we need to do is inside the input, we need to change this into a controlled input. So I'm going to have a value here. The value is equal to text, which is our state value that we have on top here, which is an empty string. And then this needs to have an onChange attribute. So when we change the value inside here, then I want to target the synthetic event of e, and I want to say set text into e.target.value. And what this means really is that anytime that we type inside the input, right, inside this input, the text that we type in is going to be populating our state value on top. Okay, and then this is very important because this is what we're going to be using inside here, inside our submit function. So the first thing I want to do is I want to check if there is no text. So if there's no text, so if we try to submit it without typing anything inside, we're just going to say do something here. And I want to implement a package that I've just thought of right now called Toastify. And then else what do we need to do? We need to say set query into the text that we type in. Remember, query is the state value that we're using to query the API. So when we change it, then we need this to run again, and then we're going to say set text into an empty string. So what this means basically is change the text back, change the input back to an empty string when we submit the form. And is there anything else we need to do here? I don't think so. So let's save this, and it's going to break, obviously. I don't know why it keeps on doing that, but you know. So let me change. Let's search for science, and nothing happens. Oh, nothing happens because our dependency array here needs to be dependent on query. We need to have a dependency array of query. So what this means is every time that the query state value changes, we need all of this to run. Okay, so that's why this didn't work. You can see that the category changed here because we're accessing the query from the top, but none of this changed. None of this changed, right? So let's save this and then save our package.json, and then let's try this again. So let's search for, oh, and you can see even before searching, you can see that this runs again because you can tell that the query has changed, right? So we can search for something like, oops, what did I do? Okay, so you can search for something like, let's search for politics, and you can see that it searches for politics. You can search for sports and so on and so forth. Okay, now I'm trying to think, what did I do? Okay, so right here I want to implement a package called Toastify, okay, which is just going to show an alert if you try to submit something in the form when there is no text. So let me just search for it because I've forgotten how to do it. Okay, so this is the package. It's called ReactJs, and we want to implement one of these. So let me just check the one that we're going to use. So we're going to say, first of all, let's install it. So let me place full screen, and then I'm going to say npm install ReactJs, and then we need to import these two, so toast container and da. Okay, so let's import these two on top. This has finished installing, so let's import these two. Okay, and then what we need to do is, it says notify da. So what we're going to do is right here we're going to say toast, and then we're just going to say input is empty. Okay, there we go. Input is empty, and then we need to have our toast container. So toast container, we can just place it where is it? Wherever. I hope so. I hope it's wherever, but let me place it right below the form. So I'm going to say toast container like so, and then it has a bit of more styling, or rather props, that you can pass to it. Let me just check the demo. Where is it? Okay, yeah, right here. So let's say actually not, I can just copy this. Just copy this and paste it inside here. Really top-notch programming, right? Okay, so let's test this out. Let's test this out. Let's see search. Nothing happens. Come on, really. Let's check the console, and it says a component is a no. Let's reload this. Each child in a list should have a unique key prop that is there, but the toast, okay, there we go. So our toast is actually over. It just needed a reload. Okay, so you can see that when you hover over it, then it pauses. But you know, I think this is a much better UI. And you know what, instead of being on the top right, I want it to be on the bottom. How do you do that? This is top right. I want it to be on the bottom right. So it's just easier changing this to bottom right. Bottom right. Okay, let's see this. Reload this. Okay, we need to reload this and do this again. Okay, so input is empty. Yeah, I think that is going to be fine, really. Perhaps on bigger screens, then it would be beneficial to have it on the top right, but yeah, this works as well. It's visible. Okay, so yeah, one final thing that you can do is you can just change the title by going into your public folder and then index.html and just changing this title here to Hacker News, like so. and then you can just save it and it updates the title and so on and so forth, and you have a really cool looking application. So yeah, that is going to be the end of the video, and if you liked what you saw, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.